Hi, cities. How are you doing? Welcome to Nine Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, Asian communities feel privileged. They feel great being featured in the movie Sinners, right? And they also appreciate their producer, Ryan Coogler, right? Now, this majority of them are actually speaking the truth and on how they have treated people that look like me, that they are ready to throw people that look like me under the bus, my own people under the bus, just to make sure that they grab anything that is coming, to make sure that maybe my own people do not benefit out of it. And when you look at it, you definitely will see how truthful that is. That's why I say some of them are very truthful. But the ones that are not truthful, they will keep hiding it. Some will say, why are you talking about this way? I am not trying to bring any war and all that. But what I am trying to say is that I love the fact that majority of them acknowledge that they have been behaving some type of way towards my own people. You want me to start with? Yes. I'm going to tell you about affirmative action, how they thought it was all black thing and all that. See, I am going to say this and I don't care what anybody think. My own people have been the ones holding every other person. And when black people are holding you, they hold you in the way that they want everybody, they want you and them to be in the same boat because they do not want it to have any scratch. Why? Because they understand what it feels like to have scratch. Does that make sense? Yes, this is how my people behave. But you all always look for a way to just for your own benefit. Let's get into this video.
I watched the movie Sinners in theaters last weekend and it was a cinematic masterpiece. So freaking good. And there are so many layers. Beyond just the beautiful film, the beautiful storyline, there are so many layers that go into it. I'm not going to be the person that goes into all of it. But one thing that I did want to talk about and I can't stop thinking about is the East Asian family. Because what that family did in that movie and what it represents feels so relevant in today's climate and honestly relevant in a lot of key moments in our country's history. So in the beginning of the film, you see that the Asian family has a very good, positive relationship with the Black community. They know each other's families, they're doing business together, they're partying together. A lot of it clearly hinges on the Asian family profiting off the Black community. They are able to sell products, goods, and services. But then when you get to the end of the film, and when the vampires come, and it's not so good anymore, you see that the Asian family is so quick to throw everyone under the bus. Another Asian creator who did a whole deep dive on this, I'll try to tag them, but he essentially talks about how the Asian family was willing to sacrifice the Black community, AKA the exact community who was doing business with them, who was propping them up when things were good. And instead of standing in solidarity with them through good and bad, they are willing to sacrifice the exact people who help them the moment they are disadvantaged. That one thing really made me think of the role that Asians have played in the history of our country and the way that we have been complicit in a lot of social issues. Of course, there's a lot of nuance and history and compassion I have for Asian immigrants and the reason why they did the things they did in this country to survive. That said, I feel like I can still be critical and see that the way that Asian Americans have really benefited from other Black and people of color advocating for rights in this country and Asian Americans really leaning into their proximity to whiteness. It feels so relevant today with everything going on in our country and the way that I see Asian Americans, and I say this as a very privileged Asian American, the way that we are so complicit and worse, ambivalent to what's happening. There are other groups of people in the Asian community who aren't doing it, who aren't being complicit and ambivalent because of fear. They're doing it because they think that they're so close to white people. They do it because they think this will never happen to them. Especially right now when K-pop and K-content is so profitable in America right now. Do you not remember 20 years ago, Asian culture was not considered cool. It was not considered profitable. But because it is considered cool and profitable, we are all benefiting from it. But don't let that fool you or give you a false sense of security, and know that it is important that we should stand in allyship and in solidarity with all groups of people who are marginalized in this country, because we also are one of those people.
Ryan Coogler did not have to include other non-Black marginalized communities in the movie Sinners, but he did so anyway, and for that I'm very grateful to him. Well, at its core, Sinners is a movie by and for Black people in the Black community, as a source of liberation through music and dance during this time period. Sinners also utilizes vampirism and multiculturalism as a way to have a discussion about how historically non-Black communities have interacted with Black people and Black culture. What I absolutely love about vampires as a monster in the horror genre and in media is that they don't appear monstrous. They can easily blend in, assimilate, conform to civilized society, and be just like any other human being. But it's their seduction tactics and the way they can lure you into their essence and in their darkness. And before you know it, it's too late and they're sucking the life out of you. That's why I think in the context of Sinners, the way they utilize these vampires as a way to showcase how parasitic non-Black people have been around Black people and Black culture. It's the way that other communities, including my own, have culturally appreciated Black culture, but then at times, more often than not, unfortunately, have veered into appropriation, exploiting and profiting off of Black culture. To my point, it's parasitic, and to have these vampires in a way be a metaphor of that, in my opinion, it was very well executed and drove those themes home. I even love that there was one specific vampire characteristic that Sinners utilized very well, and that was the concept of vampires cannot enter a space unless you invite them in. The way that these three vampires, when they said that, oh, we heard Preacher Boy singing and we absolutely loved it and we would love to partake in whatever you're doing, and they were so passive aggressive in wanting to enter this space, this safe space that the twins created with this juke joint. But the twins and the Black characters were actively trying to protect their peace and protect their space from these vampires. It was so invasive and terrifying, but again, like really drove those points home. I also interpreted vampirism in Sinners to be a metaphor and symbolic of white supremacy in America, and how all these people fell victim to vampirism and are victims of white supremacy in this country, from the Ku Klux Klan members becoming vampires. But I also want to take a moment to talk about how complex the character R0bbing is, and even though on the surface he is the main villain, the main vampire, the movie intentionally emphasized that R0bbing is an Irish immigrant, and him and his community have suffered their own set of struggles as an Irish immigrant. He too has become a vampire because of what this country has done to him too, while also not taking away that he too benefits from white supremacy as well. And again, personally for me, him doing the Irish jig and them having that moment to play Irish music in that moment, that was probably an act of defiance for a character like R0bbing, who is an Irish immigrant. And in this Hollywood Reporter interview, Jack O'Connell talks about how Ryan Coogler honored his Irish heritage in that scene. Other cultures and communities that were represented in Sinners, of course, was the Chinese immigrant community. Through the characters Grace and Bo Chow, a Chinese immigrant couple that run grocery stores, one grocery store for the white community and the other for the Black community. The way that the Chinese immigrant community and Asian Americans in general are able to interact and exist in those two different worlds speaks to how they can in ways benefit from white supremacy, while simultaneously also be a victim of it too. Also got Native American Indigenous representation in Sinners as well. While it was too brief in my opinion, I still think it made an impact to the overall story. I want to shout out and give credit to the creator that posted this on Threads, and how Black and Native people both being affected by white colonialism, and how in Native American lore they also have vampiric entities in their stories, and the fact that the Native people were vampire hunters in the story, and it speaks to how Native people being the first people on this land, and how they were also probably the first people to be in contact with vampires and monsters like that. This creator's point, it was genius to show them as the knowledge holders and hunters of these entities. I would have loved to see them come back later in the movie Sinners, but again, the small screen time they had in the movie was still impactful. I also forgot to mention that in this scene where Preacher Boy is singing I Lied to You, probably one of, if not the best scene in the movie, where we get to see the legacy of Black music and how it has transformed into so many different genres that are so beloved today. During the shot where we see Grace and Bo Chow dancing as well, the fact that they included traditional dances from the Asian diaspora, correct me if I'm wrong if this is not what we saw in the movie. We also got to see this figure in Southeast Asian folklore, which is Sung Woo Kong, the Monkey King. Now, the Malaysian actor that played Bo Chow talked about it in an interview that Ryan Coogler and the Sinners team reached out to him to ask what recognizable entities in the Asian diaspora can we include in that scene. The fact that they asked him and the fact that they wanted to include that is so commendable. I love that Sinners was an unapologetically Black movie that paid homage and owed a love letter to Black liberation through music and dance. And even then, Ryan Coogler still wanted to include other communities as well in this story, to maybe possibly further drive home that America is a melting pot, and America's strength is in its diversity. It's important to recognize our dark past and our history as a country in order for history to not repeat itself time and time again. Sinners confronted that dark history while also celebrating the different cultures, especially Black culture, that make up this country. While you did not have to at all, thank you, Ryan Coogler, for including my community and different other non-Black communities in the movie Sinners. Ryan Coogler did not have to include
I was waiting for this comment to come up because this is a deeper conversation around assimilation, especially for non-Black people of the global majority. That's why I think Ryan Coogler using vampires as an allegory to assimilation into this country, as exemplified by R0bbing, who is an Irish immigrant, and the more he aligned to whiteness, the more he lost his ancestral roots, his cultural ties, which is why he wants to bite Sammy and why he wants to also bite Annie, because she has her indigenous spiritual practices intact. Remember, when the Irish immigrants first came to the United States, they weren't considered white. Actually, the Irish and Italians were considered people of color at the time. I also think it's important to take into consideration that Ryan Coogler specifically chose 1932 Jim Crow South era and what the tension at the times between groups was. So the Chinese couple, right, this is playing into the model minority myth that the white people allowed Asian immigrants to get mortgages, own storefronts in predominantly Black neighborhoods to serve Black communities and simultaneously white communities. And so they were very much like the liminal space of the middlemen. This was also exemplified through Mary, who was accepted by the Black community since her grandfather was half Black, but she was also a shapeshifter because she was white presenting and was able to go into white spaces and marry a white man and afford herself the power and the privilege to then go outside to the white vampires. This is the choice of assimilation. Are you going to assimilate to whiteness and gain access to certain spaces? But the sacrifice is you lose your culture, you lose your ancestral roots. And I just noticed during the movie that the first person to go outside of the safe space, because she, again, is white presenting, outside to the vampires. And then the person that invited them in was ultimately Grace. So symbolically, there will always be a cost to assimilation. You lose your culture, you lose your spiritual indigenous practices, but ultimately you lose the people that actually invite you into their community.
Yo, shout out Ryan Coogler for putting that Asian family in Sinners. They were dope because I had no clue there were Asians in the South. So I'm from the Bay, and I grew up thinking that there were only Asians in Cali, New York, Chicago, and Texas. And then I moved to Vegas, and I start meeting people who are from Louisiana and Alabama. I was like, I'm sorry, there's Vietnamese people in New Orleans and Alabama? That's wild because I watch LSU games and Bama and Roll Tide games. Like, I never see y'all out there. Like, I'm curious, is there a lot of Asians in the South compared to like California, or is it still pretty rare?
I saw Sinners last night, and a thought that made me genuinely so happy was that racist people are going to skip out on that movie. And that's great because they genuinely don't deserve to see a movie that good. Racist people deserve to die without, well, period. But racist people deserve to die without experiencing a movie of that caliber. I worked at a movie theater when Get Out came out in theaters, and I worked at a movie theater in Clarksville, Tennessee. I wish I was being hyperbolic when I say that there was a staggering number of white military men who came in to find a movie to watch and came up to the ticket counter and spent the entire time shitting on Get Out and how they would never go see a black movie. I can't fucking imagine the hellscape that it is to work in a movie theater right now, where on one hand you have racist people coming in to probably talk shit about Sinners when they're not even gonna go fucking see it, which they don't deserve to see it, but still they should shut their mouths. And on the other hand, you have 15-year-olds with brain rot and their literal brain matter leaking out of their ears yelling chicken jockey and destroying theaters. It's gotta be like a war zone right now. Anyways, go see Sinners. Go see Sinners. Go see Sinners. Go see Sinners.
When watching Sinners, I thought the portrayal of Grace and Bo was really well done. As an Asian American myself, even though we are part of the minority, there are many times where we are just more widely accepted by multiple communities. And in the movie, this is shown by them owning two different stores. One for the white people and one for the black people. But the difference is, on the black community side, they're not just accepted, they're welcome like they're a part of the family. They're welcome to the club with open arms. But as soon as there's some controversy, Grace wants to split and not be a part of any of the drama. In my opinion, Grace is only okay with being with them if she can profit in some way. And in the end, she ends up betraying everyone by inviting the vampires in. This scene infuriated me. Like, just chill and shut up. She was just so enraged with revenge that it overtook her, and she ends up burning herself with the vampire. Of course, I'm not saying all Asians think the same way Grace does. Heck, even her husband, Bo, thinks a different way. It felt like Bo was closer with the twins and the black community as a whole. And if they were in reverse positions, I honestly don't think Bo would have betrayed them. Even their first interaction with one of the twins was completely different. Bo embraced him and gave him a hug, and it just felt like he was happy to see his friend that he hasn't seen for a long time. While Grace's interaction was completely different. It was just her negotiating a price, trying to get more out of him. She only saw the monetary value and nothing more. Grace also chooses to work for the store designated for white people, while Bo works for the store designated for the black people. It's honestly crazy how many different messages and themes are in this movie. Ryan Coogler truly outdid himself. At this moment, it's movie of the year.
I watched Sinners, and I'm not so sure if I'm the one to speak on this, but one of the many lessons I learned from it is there's so much power in shutting the up. Come on in! What are you doing? Shut up. Why is your vengeance and anger so much more important than your solidarity to the black community who has been there for you, who has uplifted you since the very beginning?
Facts!
Oh, it's because you're only...
Facts! He talking about the part when the Asian lady, right? The mom, and she was like, the brothers came into town and everything, and her main focus was like, listen, we ain't doing no, you know what I'm saying? We ain't moving forward until, listen, you pay up. Her focus was all about the money, bro.
Only willing to participate if you profit off of
Facts!
As a store clerk. Now, there's a lot of history there. But suddenly, the moment you're oppressed, the moment your proximity to whiteness widens, you're willing to throw everyone who has supported you under the bus to get your piece?
Facts!
Look at you.
That's facts, though.
That being said, I'm gonna shut the fuck up now.
Oh, man.
Hi friends, I just finished watching Sinners, and that was a 10 out of 10 cinematic masterpiece. Like, seriously, chef's kiss, and shout out to Ryan Coogler, the director. The amount of research and justice I feel like he's done is just incredible. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. This is your cue for spoilers ahead. Okay, bye. So I just felt like I needed to make a video because I want to talk specifically about the East Asian symbolism or representation in the movie, because I think there are so many layers to it, but I'm not going to get to all. So I'm going to list 3. The first one being, in the beginning, I don't know if I kind of missed this, but in the beginning, when they are showing the East Asian couple owning grocery stores, and side note, I had no idea there was such a specific East Asian, Mississippi, Chinese immigrant culture. So apparently there's like a documentary that was released on YouTube that goes more in depth, but just like incredible. Like the southern accents, like everything was just done so well. But yeah, in the beginning, the East Asian couple runs like grocery stores during segregation times. And in the first store, you meet the husband, Bo, and he, I think, is servicing the Black community in one grocery store, and he tells the daughter to go get the mom, Grace, in the other store. And she is across the street servicing the white community. And I think that in itself is such a theme of just Asian Americans in America, of how we're able to kind of like service and profit all these different communities, but I'm going to say specifically the white and Black community, and just how we are able to move within those different spaces. But in this case, specifically of service and profit, right? Clock that. Second part I want to go into is just how beautiful that like dance scene was. Like that was my favorite scene out of it all. And I just think it was so beautiful to see East Asian representation on the screen like that. Like the part where Bo and Grace are dancing, and then you see the Chinese folklore, and I think Shrim Hong is in it, the Monkey King. Like how crazy is that? The level of detail is like truly like I was being seen. Like when I watched that scene, I was like, I'm being seen. So I just want to again like shout out Ryan, because like that's crazy to see on a big screen that you normally would not see in an American horror movie. You only see that in Kanto. I think there were Chinese Kanto people, because I think when the white vampire, the white lead vampire, he was trying to convince like them, the Black community plus Grace, to let them in, he was speaking Kanto. And at first I didn't really get all the words, but I got a few, and I was like, whoa, Cantonese, like not Mandarin as well. That is also very specific. And I think that's specific to the Mississippi Delta Chinese immigrants. So I'm going to watch the documentary after. Okay, going back to the main scene, right? When Grace basically like messes up and she crosses boundaries into inviting people into a space where she is a guest herself, right? Where she's there to like profit and whatever. And like the minute something goes awry, she's like, let me get out, because it's no longer servicing her, right? Clock that as well. But I thought it was also interesting that the white vampire used the message of like we can be invincible together. We can defeat the KKK together with the Black folks in the club. But when it came to Grace, he was like, I'm gunning for your daughter, so you better let me in. So I felt like that was also interesting, like the message of like unity, or like we're unstoppable with the Black community, but with Grace is like, I'm going to come after you. And that was so smart, because if there's one thing about us, is family over everything for most Asian Americans. And it's been so ingrained in your head and so ingrained in our culture that you basically are willing to do anything, even when it's wrong, even when it's not your right, even when it's not even your place. You would betray, or you would do anything to save your family, or save your family's honor, or whatever, because it's so ingrained. So that's a message there. So just, I think so many layers. And I think like, especially when you grow up in America as a first generation Asian American, it's so hard to explain to your parents or your family about how race is so prevalent in America, and how race plays a part in every single person's identity in America, that I think this movie just does so beautifully, in terms of nothing is gonna happen. No one wins. There is no like fend for themselves or whatever, because we are all so connected, especially during these times. Isn't it so prevalent to America today. So a lot there. I know it was crazy, but I just felt like I had to dump my thoughts because that movie was so done so well, and the symbolism is like incredible. So I'm gonna continue reading a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Okay, go watch it, guys. Bye.
Yeah, I finally saw Sinners. This scene blew me away, of course. Unbelievable scene, great movie. But yeah, it got me thinking, like, wouldn't it be so cool if there were a musician whose whole thesis was this scene, was linking the past and the future
merge to meet us here.
And we can take it even a step further. Sammy's music is so incredible that it connects to the past and the future, and he's so good, and the music is so connected to his essence as a soul in a way that is so unique to him and his people that Finnick wants to take it from him. What if there was a musician who addressed that as well? And it would just be so cool if this musician also addressed the idea that any church, any organized religion, any school of thought or spirituality that tried to claim that music and art are of the devil and do not lead to the edification of the spirit, but instead we flip that and we say that music actually holds the key to edification and unification with the body and the soul, not whatever that church is selling you. That would be cool. It'd be so cool if those things could be in conversation with each other. Wish there were an artist like that.
This is all I got from this video. I love the fact that some people are very truthful about how badly their community, like, how bad it is in their own community, because the majority of them do not bother, talking about it. And also, I think they also feel like they are privileged to also be featured in the movie, even though they are not supposed to, but the other people feel entitled, right? Now let's talk about how Asian community, how they have treated Black people so far. I love the fact that they are also talking about it during segregation. And still, something that I have noticed over time is that majority of the things that happen in history are still happening to this very moment. One thing is that you just have to be activated to know them, to see them, to be able to understand that all these things are still happening to this very moment, right? It's just like you all already know that them opening stores in Black community did not start today. Why did they start opening stores in Black community? They started because they wanted that in actually white community, but white community did not want that. They did not want them to take their money. So they gave them loan, moved to other communities like Black community, and spread. So they spread and they started doing business. They are actually flourishing. But one thing that comes out of that flourishing of Black dollars is the fact that Black people cannot even walk into their store and buy things easily. Rather, they will make you feel very uncomfortable, right? And the fact that they are always very quick to throw people that look like me under the bus, like any tiny thing like that, you see them, they flee. You just feel like, man, so we are all been alone all this while and all of that. They would rather keep talking, keep saying, keep doing, instead of listening to Black people. They don't mind sacrificing anything to make sure that it is on their own advantage and let it affect people that look like me. Some people will be like, why are you talking like this? I am talking like this because I have seen it all. My people have seen it all. Why? Because you also affirmative action, how it went down. Have you ever seen people that look like me block anybody's blessings? No. We Black people are always working to make sure that everybody is on the same boat with them. They don't want to see anybody suffer because they know what it looks like, what it feels like to be oppressed. One of the reasons why they look for a way to bring everybody together. But you all are ready to trash all. Let me throw them away. Let's get this thing just for us. I love the fact that this movie is teaching everybody something. I am going to draw the curtain here. I appreciate you, all my people. Bye for now.